is Gamora? My name is Matthew Kroll.
Who is Gamora? My name is Shahir Dowd.
And why is Gamora? I'm Shalyah Evans.
And this is the only podcast about movies specifically, and I cannot believe I'm finally getting to say this, Marvel's The Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is just a regular movie for me. I mean, I'm just strolling in here like, oh, what are we doing this week?
Yeah, well,
well, you guys have been doing something different.
We've been doing this for a while.
This is our whole lives now.
Shalyah, hello.
Hi, I'm so glad to be back for this culmination of all of our hard work.
Yes,
we couldn't do it without you. At
no,
this
of
point,
course.
I would have been so sad.
This is the finale. For those of you who haven't been keeping track of the near 7.5 hours of content Shalyah and I have made on the side, Shalyah and I have a Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 podcast where we go over all 18 Marvel films in the MCU.
And sadly, I've rewatched some of them since we finished.
Oh, you have?
I love
I'm
it.
a monster.
I gracefully bowed out of that one. I mean, we did do the Star Wars thing, and I was kind of happy to do that. That was 6 movies, though. But I think when it came down to 19 or 18 movies at that point, I was like, I want to, but at the same time, I don't want to.
It is a tall order for anyone. And you know, long story short, Shahir, for personal reasons, and you're busy, you're a family man, you had to bow out, and you hate me. And Shalyah, Shalyah came in. And
no family.
Was my night. No family, no responsibilities.
No family, no responsibilities, very little employment. Love the excuse to tell my mom I'm doing something.
But you are officially my knight in shining armor in this scenario. So
wonderful.
Again, I thank you. I thank you for helping me indulge myself.
Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds gross.
Look, you've helped me indulge myself too.
There we go.
Okay. You guys want me to leave? I can leave.
No, Shahir, this is important that you're here for both of our mutual self-indulgences.
Okay, all right.
And we're having separate self-indulgences.
Yes,
good.
yes.
I have listened to all episodes, by the way. I think you guys did a fantastic job. And again, you did something that I was not willing to do. I think it was also, for me, it was a good primer to like remind myself about every single movie leading up to Infinity War, because it's not that I'm not excited about it, but I'm a little bit out of the loop, I guess, in terms of like where stories are going, what stories are important. So I think it was really useful to actually just like gather back, because I just wasn't going to go back. I did try and rewatch a couple of them, whatever was available on Netflix, and I borrowed your copy of Age of Ultron and Thor Ragnarok, and to be honest, I didn't watch them.
But they were sitting on your desk.
They were sitting on my desk for a long time, and they're still there today. I will one day you'll get them back.
Oh.
I'm actually curious as to how you guys feel leading up to Infinity War. I'm more interested in what you guys have to say than anything I have to say at this point.
Shalyah, how did you feel leading up?
Leading up to it, well, here's the thing. I had a bummer of a week. Health-wise, I got really, really sick. And so I couldn't go for the first 3 days that it was out, and I was sad the whole time.
Oh wow.
So I was a little distracted by feeling sorry for myself. But I've been doing a lot of emotionally building myself up so that deaths wouldn't upset me in public alone, because that was the plan for seeing the movie. I was like, I'm gonna be alone, it's gonna be 10 a.m. I don't want to cry alone at 10 a.m. at a Marvel movie, so I need to be prepared. So I've done a lot of like, it's okay, let them go, they're always gonna be there. So that was my leading up to a movie. That was what I've been doing.
You know, interestingly enough, I think your story, your timing of your story leading up to it and mine, I think we were very much in sync. I was on vacation, and Shahir, you and Brendan McCarthy did an excellent job in my absence for the You Were Never Really Here podcast. I listened all the way up to when you said there would actually be spoilers.
Oh, good.
Because
so you want to see the film? I
do want to see the film, and I did not want it to be ruined, but I loved the conversations that the two of you were having. So thank you for covering my butt on that. Also, so I didn't get to actually see this movie, Shalyah, Avengers Infinity War, until about 3 days, I think, as well, after it had come out, because I got back. But I went and saw it. I literally got off the plane, came home, unpacked, and went to the theater in a very jet-lagged, not having slept in 30 hours-ish state.
I mean, that Hawaii has movie
Yeah, I was
theaters,
gonna say,
right?
whenever I used to go to
I
Hawaii
was
from New
so
Zealand,
weirded out.
I would go to the movies.
Listen, you two. This is a little early to be ganging up on me, but the reason why I tried to figure out a schedule and it didn't quite work out because I was there for a wedding, and there was events before the wedding, etc. And two, in order to see it, and then the only reason to really see it that soon would be if we were going to do a remote podcast, and then it would have been 3 time zones instead of 2 that we were trying to traverse. So I figured I'd wait till I was sick and tired when I got home to see it as a little pick me up.
So the funny thing is, out of the 3 of us, me being the sort of least enthused, I went to see it opening night by myself.
How was it?
It was fun. It was fun seeing it opening night. It was actually just the only time I could go see it was because it was a Thursday night, and I was like, I would have no time to go see it over Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I went on a Thursday night into the local Astoria movie theater, and what I loved is I think I went to like a 10:30.
Yeah.
The only thing is that it plays in every single theater every 15 minutes. So it was like I just picked the least populated theater and just walked into it.
Sure.
And it was great because there wasn't too many people around. It was a little bit of a shitty screening in terms of like the quality of the projection and what have you. But it was fun to like be there opening night and see people reacting to it and like seeing people gasping and, talking. Unfortunately, that does extend to this was the loosest audience I've ever been with, where cell phones are out, people are texting in the middle of the movie. They're texting about the movie, which is great, I guess. But they're texting during the movie, which is shitty.
Yeah.
So it was a little mixed bag, but it was weird because I also felt like there was a person doing it right next to me and I kind of just didn't mind, or I didn't really care because it was part of the experience. It wasn't like a single person who was being disrespectful. It was the entire theater.
I got you. Well, listen, dear listeners, if you want to be part of the experience, you can get a hold of us with all of your Marvel or other movie questions at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach us at onlymoviepod on Twitter. Also, we have a Facebook group that I still check on occasion, and we obviously got the iTunes review place, which we check every single day. So that's probably the fastest way to get hold of us.
And we do have some emails this week about Infinity War, but I think we'll answer them as they kind of become relevant.
I
think
that makes sense
because they're we had this issue while you were away as well, which is we were getting emails and I had to text you and say, don't open the email account because the emails we got were basically very spoiler filled questions. And not only that, there was spoilers in the subject line. So I felt kind of like, you should probably avoid this at this point.
I appreciate the warning. That is the kind of thing. And I don't even blame our listeners for putting spoilers in a subject line, because obviously I would have, if any other circumstance, seen it Thursday night as well.
Right.
But thank you for writing in. We'll touch them as we go.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Let's roll down into this. I want to get Shalyah's your first impressions of the film overall. Ready, set, go.
We're spoiler town, right?
I think we should say up front, this is we're presuming everybody on the planet has seen this movie.
Yes.
So we're just going to roll straight into spoilers for this film. If you haven't seen Avengers Infinity War, basically look outside your window and someone will be playing it. Some theater which you could probably sneak into. Just watch it and then come back to us. There are going to be spoilers off the bat.
It felt like the internet decided Wednesday was the cutoff,
right.
After the movie opened.
100%.
Everyone was like, spoiler time! Yeah. You've had enough!
I was proud of the restraint the internet showed, to be quite honest. That's almost a week.
Well, since we're spoilers,
yeah,
I knew he was gonna die, but I want Loki to be in every movie of all kinds, not just Marvel.
I actually had the thought when it happened in the film that Shalyah was probably hurting right now.
That's the first 5 minutes of the movie, right?
That's the first thing that happens.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that happens. And I went into it being like, okay, here we go. He's gonna die, you have to be okay. He's gonna die, you have to be okay. And was like sucking on a throat lozenge to try to like keep it together and was like, okay. And now I've spent the whole week just watching other projects of Tom Hiddleston to make up, to pretend he's still with us. So from there on in, I didn't give a shit about anyone else's death or anything. No, like I liked them. Like I was totally into the movie. There are some of the most fun mashups of personalities like ever, but I'm sad about the deaths that happen in the middle of the movie, but all the end ones don't feel very permanent, which we'll get into.
Right, before the snapping.
Yeah, the snapping.
I don't know if I coined that one. I don't think, maybe I did. I know the snapture is one that I did not coin.
Oh,
okay.
I like the snapping because it makes me think that like M. Night Snap-a-Lon.
What a twist.
The snapping. I went into it knowing that I was going to be upset the whole time because there was no way Loki was going to make it.
No.
Past the first 5 minutes.
We said that in our phase
clear.
3. Yeah.
Yeah, that was clear. So I went into it with this like, don't be mad at the movie, let it happen. And I think I did a pretty good job, other than the backlash of stalking an actor online.
I don't think he knows about it, so you're good.
Well, I mean, he is an avid
I
listener.
wish he knew.
Right.
I wish he knew. My only goal in life is to get famous men to ask me to leave them alone.
Oh, there you go.
We can help make that happen. Yeah. That dream could come true tonight.
Yes, good.
What else? Did anything else particularly? How did you feel overall? Again, sort of as a culmination of what we'd done and what we'd watched.
It's hard because it isn't a culmination because there's another one.
Yeah.
And you know while you're watching it, there's another one. So as soon as Thanos starts undoing time, you're like, oh, well, nothing's real.
Yeah.
Nothing is real. And so it doesn't feel like a culmination yet because nothing's real. Nothing is permanent. Nothing's real. There's too much left to happen.
Yeah.
So it feels like just a giant cliffhanger full of amazing chemistry between good actors.
Right. This is a problem, actually, that the comics have a lot of times, too, with these giant crossover events. Like, the audience going into it knows that most everyone will come out status quo. Obviously, they do 2 or 3 that will not. Otherwise, there's zero meaning whatsoever. And that was something that I was very interested in, sort of how they were going to handle in this film. And I'll talk about it a little bit as we move on. Shahir, what about you, buddy? What were your first impressions?
First impressions, I think, just to preface my whole sort of thing with all the Marvel movies, which is that I am in total admiration and in kind of awe of the achievement of this whole thing, the sort of staggering scale of complexity to bring together so many characters, to tease something over the course of 10 years, and to actually pull it off. Like, I will say I enjoyed the film. I think for the most part, my general response often with most Marvel films is that I like them at the time, and then I kind of cool off them pretty, like over time, I cool my general impressions over time. Like even Black Panther is a film which I liked, and I kind of have just kind of cooled off that whole experience. People are talking about Black Panthers for the Oscars, and I'm like, let's slow our roll here a little bit.
You're hot, then you're cold. You're yes, then you're no. You're in, then you're out. You're up, then you're down.
That's pretty much me. Is that Katy Perry?
It is.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It is.
Sorry, I am that guy who doesn't know pop movie reference. I'm Peter Quill in this whole thing.
My first thought was, has she dated anyone in the cast? And I think the answer is no.
Oh, really?
Oh.
That's what I'm here for the gossip.
Yeah, can we do like a 6 degrees of separation? 6 degrees of dating separation with Katy Perry?
Let's not get into degrees of separation. My whole week has just been me thinking about everyone I know that definitely knows any of these dudes. And
well,
it's been miserable.
It's probably not hard at this point.
It's too easy, and it makes me so. I'm like, yep. If I just bothered that guy, I could get a number.
I'm in awe of the achievement. I'm in awe of the sort of manifesto that came down to make this happen. There are precedents for this, obviously. I'm equally in awe of things like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. And the way that they sort of had overarching narratives across multiple films. And in terms of positives, there were a couple. I was kind of, again, I walked into the movie. I thought the opening sequence was a little rough. I was kind of like, what am I in for here? Because I thought it felt a little bit haphazard, and that's obviously Loki's death. The sort of first scene coming out of Thor Ragnarok, back into the spaceship where Asgard is not a people. Asgard is not a place; it's a people, and here they are all dead. I was kind of like, okay, I'm like, because I don't mind that as a principle, but I kind of was like, this is being done a little haphazardly, and I'm not really feeling the emotional weight of what's happening here. I kind of felt that way for most of the first half of the movie, but there was one scene that clicked into place, and it was a scene where I think it was doing the kinds of things I want to see in these movies. And to jump into spoilers, it's Gamora's death. And the reason I liked that scene is because it's unexpected, but also layered. Unexpected for the characters. They kind of, as soon as we end up in the situation, we know Gamora is going to die. But layered because it's a moment where Gamora learns that Thanos truly loves her, even though she didn't think that was the case. And I thought that was kind of a beautiful layered thing. It also gave us an extent of what Thanos is capable of. And then I thought there was a real, chutzpah to the ending. Like when people started dissolving away, I was like, okay, I check out the big balls on you guys.
Respect where respect is due. You killed a lot of people.
Then again, though, but so that's the optimistic side. That's the part that I'm like, yeah, sure, cool. I'm in, I'm engaged, and again, I enjoyed the sort of cultural experience of being in a theater where people were cheering. There was a woman in front of me who clearly Black Panther is her favorite character of all time. So whenever he's on screen, she did the hand cross and Wakanda forever.
Nice.
And then to see him fade away, I could just see how devastating it was for this woman. She was really, really upset. I think, for me, the thing that becomes interesting here is that the cynical part of me goes, well, I admire the chutzpah, but I don't buy it either because of we understand how this business works and we understand what this is, and we're also seeing half the movie. But the optimistic part of me is going, well, you've seen what the response is to this. I don't know. Have they filmed the second one already?
Yeah, they filmed at the same time.
Okay, so they've kind of figured out what they're doing already. Because what I think I would have been interested to see them do is to put this film out and then wait to see the response and then figure out, okay, how can we pay this off in the most meaningful way? Because the thing that will sour me on this whole experience is if narratively that doesn't pay off in a way that's meaningful. If we just rewind time, if something like that happens, I do have a prediction about what I think is going to happen, and we can save that for the end.
Sure.
What I hope is happening, and it's not a pleasant thing, but I think throughout this whole review, I will be more interested to discuss the kind of philosophical ramifications of what this film does as opposed to the film itself. I generally enjoyed. I'm glad we're doing it a week later, so that I can kind of I've had time to temper my feelings about it.
Right.
How about you, Matt?
Well, first and foremost, and I can't even blame my generally jet-lagged state when I saw it. Every worry that I had for this film working is completely sated and has bled away. It is everything I wanted it to be, but in that, I too, your friendly neighborhood Marvel shill, have a few issues, and it's based around, I think, a little bit of the stuff that you're talking about, Shahir, which we'll get into a little bit. First and foremost, I love the structure of this film because they were smart, and they basically made Thanos the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they made all the other characters that we want satellite around this one new character we'd never gotten a lot of time with. And as far as a CGI villain character, this is one of the best ones I've seen in a while. Now, just for preface, on the plane ride home, because I wanted to fall asleep, I watched Justice League again.
Oh yeah.
I still haven't seen it. No, even though I love Wonder Woman more than life itself,
Sure.
I'm like, don't make me watch.
So the villain in that film is Steppenwolf, and Steppenwolf is another
The theater company?
Yeah, or the
Chicago.
band.
Yeah.
But Steppenwolf as a CG character had no agency script-wise, had no weight either personality-wise or actually physical feeling weight. He just felt like he floated around the screen and he was not supposed to. It was a failure of a CGI villain character that's supposed to motivate all these other characters we care about. Thanos, they took so much time and care, and Josh Brolin, kudos to that guy, because straight up, I don't care about Thanos. I've said before this movie, I've said in the comics, he's super problematic and just cosmically weird and bad. And I don't like, while the concept of the Infinity War and the Infinity Gauntlet and the stones is very interesting to me, I think him as a foil in the comics is lazy 80s and 90s sort of writing.
I was gonna say, is he from the 80s?
Yeah.
Because he feels like a toy.
I don't know the exact dates.
Stylistically,
I feel
you
like
buy
it's
Thanos.
late 70s, early 80s. I'm not quite sure, but in the comics. So his motivation in this film is, one of the reasons he works is he sees himself as the totally self-sacrificing hero. He's sacrificing everything of himself to basically, quote, save the universe in his eyes, because resources are finite, and the fairest way is to eliminate half of life in the universe, because life left unchecked will then destroy the universe. But in the comics, this is the weird thing. In the comics, he's literally doing that plan not for some altruistic, weird genocidal like balancing act. He's doing it because he's actually trying to court the physical embodiment of death, which is basically a skeleton with boobs. And is
it Red Skull's girlfriend?
No, but that's interesting. We'll get to Red Skull in a bit. It's so bad and corny, and like it's just rough, and how they have turned that particular frown upside down for the MCU I really respect.
They took a real, I mean, I've been doing some research on the entire movie.
Okay.
But no, I just read an article about the like historical significance of Thanos and like what times in history that mentality has been used about resources, and got really mad extra at Thanos because apparently that was the exact same philosophy that was used to justify not feeding the Irish during the potato
that's
famine.
the Malthusian theory of population.
And I'm like, oh, fuck this.
Yeah, Robert Malthus.
So like all the other ones I knew about, but now that I know they came for the Irish.
Yeah.
Now it's
my
personal.
ego. It's personal.
You tried to kill me? They made it a very realistic, like, because I've read this stuff about courting death and trying to, and it would have felt hollow if he was like trying to get a skeleton to like him.
Yeah, exactly. So I loved the choices they made with Thanos. Kudos to the entire team on that. I think, again, I've talked about plate spinning back and forth on this entire thing. They spin plates so well. The problem that comes up with the plate spinning, however, and this is the first time, and it's an interesting problem, and I'd like both of your opinions on it. The plate spinning, the plates are all still spinning, but I will say the act of which you are supposed to be amazed at is hurt overall because of so many plates spinning. And by that I mean, I'm going to go back to Shalyah. I'm sorry to bring this up again, but the first scene, Shahir, that you brought up of the Asgardian ship and both Heimdall and Loki's death at the hands of Thanos and his Black Order. That scene felt the weakest to me overall, and I felt like it felt rushed. And from both but overall, I feel like if there wasn't 9 scenes like that in this movie, it wouldn't have either A, felt that way, or B, they could have given it more time to sort of let it breathe. So there's this thing where they didn't drop the plates, and that's the scene I feel like in this film where they're really leaning hard on your knowledge of Loki to carry the emotional weight through it. Where the rest of them, I feel like they do some legitimate, albeit minor, sort of like emotional stake setups for all the other deaths in certain cases. This felt like a rush job, and it feels like almost like a necessary rush job, because they need to, before they get into the sappy stuff about Thanos, they need to prove that you're going to be afraid of Thanos. And so what better way than to kill 2 characters that have been with you over the course of 3.5 movies.
Right.
As someone who, this is the part I cared about the most, and felt like one, there's an assumption that you know exactly how Thor ended, Ragnarok ended.
Yep.
Which you might not. What if you didn't stay for the end credits? What was that? What if that was the one thing, the one time you walked out, you'd be fucked.
Yeah.
So like, or if you didn't recognize the Tesseract when Loki looks at it, like you have and assume based on what you know about Loki that he would have taken it. Like this scene. This opening was so like you had to know everything and be really on top of it in a way that made it feel rushed because you're spending time making sure you've checked all the boxes and know what's happening, and then everybody's dead.
Yeah.
So, and then I have a thing here, and I'm going to be doing this the whole time because I just have questions about this.
Yeah.
I don't know if these are legitimate questions either, because it's sort of like, oh, is this a problem or is it not? Why did Heimdall send the Hulk back? Why not send Thor? Or
I think because he's from Earth? That was what I assumed.
But Thor has been to Earth many times as well?
I think my reading of it was that Heimdall sent the Hulk back because the Hulk was like on the brink of death where Thor wasn't quite yet.
Okay.
That was my read of it. Like, oh shit, Thanos is going to kill the Hulk if he doesn't do that right now.
Right.
And then he walks over and kills Heimdall, and then Thor doesn't even have that option anymore.
Right.
That was how I read it. But again, it was rushed.
Yeah.
I really thought it was like a kindness because everyone else there was of the same world, and that there was this one guy who's like, I'm a scientist that's never been to space, and they're like, get him out of here. He tried to help, he couldn't help, get him out of here. That's what it felt like to me, is like women and children first kind of situation.
So I kind of, because I there was one thing about like that was the first time I was like, why him, not why, like why not the guy who's the protector of the Asgardian people, yada yada yada, all that jazz. It's a there's probably a legitimate way to explain it, like you guys just said. I just kind of was like,
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that getting lost.
And
totally.
The thing that I was kind of like, the cynical part of me again for this whole thing was that we live in an age now where we know a little bit too much about behind the curtain of Marvel, of how Marvel operates as a company. And one of the things I was like thinking about, especially I guess this opening scene and the final scene, was that it felt like kind of metatextually Thanos' superpower was contract enforcement. And he was basically like, just, like, okay, you're done with the MCU. We're going to kill you off. You're done with the MCU. We're going to get rid of you. And you guys, we know there's another movie coming, so that's why you're not really dead, but I'm going to kind of kill you off anyway. It kind of felt like there was like a mechanic to everything where I was like, I wasn't really feeling like the deaths were narratively important as much as it was like, oh, this is that character's time because we've done 3 movies now, and this is this character's time because he's going to go out here, but we're going to save this guy for later. So it's kind of like, it kind of felt, there was this sort of schematic to Thanos' superpower that I was kind of like, okay.
I didn't get that read from it. I think, and some of the more problematic stuff I will talk about sort of later on with snapping and all that jazz. But I never felt like the deaths leading I'll call them the true deaths. I never read it like that.
Right.
The true deaths felt hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me.
Loki, both I think you and I, Shalyah, predicted that would happen.
We knew. It doesn't make us okay with it.
But like narratively and maybe even from a little bit of what you said, Shahir, sort of career-wise esque, we get it.
It's just, he's been in this many films, so,
But for
peace
instance,
out.
well, see, I don't see it like that. I see it as I see it as the story has set. I'm saying knowing superhero story narrative structure and knowing where all the pieces were left, he was the most obvious person to go because he's still a villain, even though everyone loves him. He's also really powerful, so you got to show how powerful Thanos is, and it will motivate Thor even more. There's lots of boxes it checks off for him to die. That's where I feel like it's a little bit. I'm looking at it more of a story where you're looking at it more from the behind the scenes stuff.
His actions also just like make sense that he would be killed.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
in that moment.
The fact that he's made it this long is the unusual thing.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that, like the fact that he's even still alive to make it into this movie feels more like a contract thing. Than,
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Like they kept him around because girls make fan art of his butt. Like they kept him around for money reasons, and then they killed him off because it made sense. I was so sad. It made sense.
And then the other 2 main deaths, there's one in the middle of the Collector, which I don't think is it's not supposed to be a tearjerker in any way, shape, or form.
Was it the Collector died?
Yeah, the Collector died.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, actually, technically, you see him die off screen because it's an illusion from the reality stone. It's not actually. It's the reality stone doing it. Regardless, Gamora's death had an incredible amount of weight, and I didn't see that motivated by any.
Because you
thing.
could see her coming back for another movie, so definitely her.
If anything, if they killed her from from anything other than a narrative point of view, it would be detrimental to the already announced third.
Yeah. I agree. I
Guardians
definitely agree with
movie,
that. That, and I mentioned that up top as well. That scene was the scene that kind of turned the movie for me.
And the last true death, I'll say, is Paul Bettany's vision. And I don't think I didn't see that at all as trite or sort of calculated in a way, to the point, because they based so much of the plot around there's a possibility to save him. Like from the trailers, I was like, oh, Corbus Glaive, the guy who was originally prying the gem out of his head, he's just going to wreck Vision, and that's going to be the end of it. That's what I sort of thought. But they built such a plot around saving and in the emotional resonance between him and Wanda, to when finally Wanda decides that she's going to go through with it and try to destroy the stone, and then to have Thanos just reverse it to kill him again was super weighty for me.
Yeah.
The only thing about it was that I was surprised. Was the thing that Vision transformed himself into like a human character? Did that happen in another movie?
No, he's never actually been purely human face before.
Because I was like, oh, if I was like a Scarlet Witch, I would have been like, I was on board for the purple dude with the cape. I'm not sure if I'm on board for the for this guy. You know what I mean?
For way too old for me, Paul Bettany.
No, I'm just saying the purple dude with the cape seems exciting to me. The sort of middle-aged Englishman seems like, I'm not sure I'm here for this. You know, like
the jewel's not even there. You can't see it.
I was just
Paul
like,
Bettany.
if I was her, I would just be a little bit.
I think you're down talking Paul Bettany's.
He is married to Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, so let's not mince words.
Oh no, he's doing fine.
Yeah.
It was a little weird to be like, wait, because we hadn't discussed at any point in any of these movies that he could do that.
Yeah. It
apparently
seemed
he
like,
can do that.
His whole thing over the two movies he'd been in before is that he was slowly learning how to use whatever powers he had, and new ones were coming and things like that. So I didn't really bat an eye at it.
One of them was cloaking.
I'm not suggesting it's a problem. I just thought it was amusing, and I would be like,
sure, copy that. Sorry, I just want to finish we've been going back and forth, which I like. I'm going to finish sort of my final thoughts very quickly. I thought this movie gave me the feeling, it was the closest feeling that I've had in the movies, and this is, I think, a good thing overall, to that childlike wonderment of actually playing with action figures and using your own imagination to kind of like build stories and things like that. Like this felt, outside of even just for the fun action parts, felt like the most like, you want to dump your whole toy chest on the ground and play with it? Like, all right, let's roll.
Yeah.
Like that was really special to me, and I could see how even for kids that would be even better. Also, I really liked how they handled the Black Order, the Children of Thanos, the four sort of mini bosses.
They're so good.
Yeah. Corbus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, Black Dwarf, and Ebony Maw. Ebony Maw being my favorite of all of those. But
which one is Ebony Maw?
The one that gets Doctor Strange and has the best ending. I think.
Oh my God. I loved, it felt like a combination of like a Shakespearean monologue and also like Davy Jones in the Pirates of the Caribbean being like, you will join our crew, like you've been blessed by the children of Thanos. Like it's such a grandeur thing.
He's being a herald, great. Like hardcore. He's the one that first shows up on Earth with the donut of misery.
He's the only one of the four that kind of really registered for me. Yeah. The other three kind of were neither here nor there.
They fade to the background 100%. Yeah.
Once I figured out Proxima Midnight was Carrie Coon, I was like, I'm paying attention to everything you do. But then I was also annoyed because why was she CGI'd to just be a taller woman?
Yeah, I don't know why that was the choice, but I will say the CGI characters, even her, had actual weight and presence, which I was happy and impressed with.
I was insulted as a woman that they couldn't just let Carrie Coon have
Carrie Coon.
Yeah.
Yes. They just, because they didn't, it's not like they gave her like extra arms or some shit. They just made her taller and skinnier.
No, she didn't float.
Oh, okay.
I don't think. Ebony Maw is the only one with an actual personality. I feel
he's
like
the first one again, right?
Yeah.
He's the one that kind of registered as a character for me.
It's interesting. Corbus Glaive, the one that starts to pry Vision's gem out of his head, and the one that eventually sneaks behind the Black Panther lines to get inside to get to Vision. He is the most developed throughout the comics, and I was surprised that they didn't do anything with him. Now, granted, again, there's no room. That's fine. Black Dwarf and Proxima Midnight, I kind of liked as their little tag team bit as they fought them a couple different times throughout. Anyway, they felt like this is what I really liked about it. They felt like mini bosses that gave me just enough to be like, I'm interested in what this thing is, even though it's not telling me exactly what this thing is. And maybe that hand wave comes from the fact that we've heard about Children of Thanos before, like he's taken kids before. Well, that's what the Gamora and Nebula are. He takes children from the societies he used to, kill half of them by hand before he got the bedazzled glove. So I liked them a lot. And then the ending, despite all of the logical moviegoer knowledge and the knowledge that the snapping will most likely be reversed, and we'll talk about how we think that's going to happen later, the fact that even everyone knowing it, because everyone who's going to this thing is familiar enough with the machine that makes these movies, with the mouse that's turning the levers, it still had emotional weight to it. And I find that fact, that an audience member knowing that this isn't going to last can still have the reactions that woman did to the Black Panther. Everyone had their favorite character that kind of got whisked away.
No matter who you are, Peter Parker broke her heart.
The Peter Parker moment was legit heart-wrenching. And he's coming back.
Yeah.
So
he's got another movie coming out.
So I find the ability, and this is half, I think, the film itself giving enough, emotional resonance to the characters and the moments in which they disappear. But it's also, I think, due to the fact that these are characters that have been with us for a long time. In a lot of cases, sometimes Peter Parker's relatively recent, but he sells a super emotional tone. Whereas like people that are emotionally involved with Winter Soldier, I heard them gasp. He's been in what, four films now?
Yeah.
Full films. So like, yeah, or Groot. People like I heard people scream no when, even though teenage Groot is awful in this movie, I just don't care about him.
You still are sad if a teenager dies, right?
Oh, no, sure. I did like his one moment that he like redeems himself
with the hammer.
Yeah, with the hammer.
With Stormbreaker.
Yeah, I like that.
So
I liked him in that.
Yeah. So kudos to this entire film and the exercise in general for being able to basically do a magic trick that everyone knows how it works and still have everyone go ooh and ah and clap at the end. Like there's something there that's magical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have my issues, which we can sort of get into later. Unless, I mean, how else do we want to structure this thing? Because I feel like we're going to be jumping around a whole bunch talking about
so
moments.
Much.
I've been rambling for a bit. Shahir, do you have any pressing things you'd like to discuss, or Shalyah?
My things tend to do with sort of broader strokes of this thing. Again, it's a sort of a tricky proposition to talk about this sort of because we've kind of only seen half the movie, and I'm sort of, I do want to see where it goes. There's just a real chance for this to really disappoint me. And I 100% hope it doesn't. Like, I really hope that the sort of emotional resonant experience that people are having with this first one is paid off legitimately in the second one. Like, it doesn't feel cheap and by like reversing time or anything like that, or that. So maybe the way I can kind of structure the conversation is to say what I think I would like to see happen. And it's not necessarily that this is what should happen. Sure. But in terms of like possibilities for making this not feel cheap, is I think they should kill off the primary Avengers. I think they should kill off Captain America, Tony Stark, everyone who was left behind, basically, because we know that everyone else has a movie coming out. I think they should actually kill off those people. And I mean, legitimately kill them off. Like, they are dead. They're not coming back. We're done with these actors. We're done with these movies. And that is that. Because again, I'm not suggesting that it has to be that, but I'm saying if you want this to feel like it meant something, then you have to do something that means something. My question, just back to that thought, though, is won't that give you the same feeling that you kind of got with the contractual obligation power that Thanos have? Like, wouldn't that be the most possibly
a behind the scenes expected thing to do? Like, shouldn't it be like 2 or 3 of them go?
The only reason I say that is that these are primary characters who have films named around them.
Sure.
Whereas, like, we don't have a Gamora movie, we don't have a Loki movie. So this would be like killing, legitimately saying story matters here.
Okay.
And that, like something along. It doesn't have to be that necessarily. I think even like cheapening it to, I don't know if this is cheap or sort of another way to do it is like if they split off into like parallel dimensions or something like that, and then you recast them or whatever. I don't know, but I'm saying like my overall thing is I don't want this experience to be cheapened, and it's hard to construct the conversation around this sort of effectively because we're sort of doing that thing. The thing that I kind of get a little frustrated with Marvel movies, which is that we're saying, well, eventually we'll get there. You know what I mean? And that's always been a little bit of a thing with me for the Marvel movies where I'm like, oh, can't we just do that thing now? Can a movie be a movie kind of thing? And it's we're sort of in that half movie experience, but it's not a bad half movie. It's an interesting half movie. It's a good place to like end half a movie.
It's where you would switch the VHS tapes on Titanic.
Yeah. Or we flip the
I've been thinking
Laserdisc.
that the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like if they only gave you the first VHS tape.
Yeah.
And then you were like, uh-oh, the boat will surely founder within 2 hours. In 2 hours, all this will be at the bottom of the ocean? Well, what do you say now, E.J. Smith? And then you're like, I'll wait a year.
Yeah, well, Shalyah, what do you think about that? How do you think this second half should resolve, or how would you feel best? How emotionally or just sort of from a moviegoer enjoyment? What would you like to see?
I've been thinking about it a lot. I understand the impermanence of the deaths is so, like, we just know that stuff isn't permanent in such a way that I kind of don't care who actually is alive as much as I care about the execution of the story. And I kind of hope they do something like nuts. Like when they end credit scene, use a pager to get Captain Marvel. I'm like, oh my God, are they gonna time travel to the 90s? Or like, and then I read some stuff about like maybe Gamora's still alive inside the soul dimension. And like, let's do some weird shit. Like, I want it to get weird, and so it breaks my expectations of like normal, like what Marvel has established as their narrative storytelling, which is, pretty, as much as they've done so much stuff, it is pretty by the book storytelling. They don't shock us ever. So I feel like that would be the biggest payoff for me, is if something absolutely bananas happens.
Well, see, I think if they bring Gamora back, I think I might riot a little bit. I think
Really?
if they return Gamora back,
you're gonna be upset then.
Yeah.
I have something to tell you.
Oh yeah?
Did you see today the Russo brothers were doing a Q&A with some high school kids, and they said, it looked like it was all orange where Thanos was at the end. Is that because he was inside the Soul Stone? And they said yes.
Okay.
They confirmed that Gamora as a little girl and Thanos are inside the Soul Stone.
Huh.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just going to say I don't know what that means. But.
But like, she exists in another dimension.
Sure.
But
They said yes to a teenager that asked them that question.
But I'm hoping, because look, there's a bit of a anyone they bring back from the snapping, and of course I keep saying that term, it's when Thanos gets all the Infinity Stones in the gauntlet and he can snap his fingers and he can extinguish half of all the life in the universe, and they all blow away like cornflakes in the wind. And it's a great effect.
Like Voldemort in the wind.
Yeah. They all look, you know what I loved? Everyone had a different reaction. This is a side note. Every character had a different reaction to being sort of taken away, to the point where, like, Bucky looked confused. A couple other people had general confusion and fear. Scarlet Witch, after the things she'd just been through, had like a look of like release. She almost looked happy to go, which I was like, that's a fucking cool, bold choice. So anyway, that was cool. But so any of the people that I feel like that they can bring them all back from the snapping. I don't want them to bring back anyone who had an actual death, because that to me will break part of the world that they have now said this is it, because they make a very distinct visual and story distinction between these deaths. Now, I think Shahir, to your point, I want if they reverse the snapping and everyone just comes back, there needs to still be some repercussions to that, both in the world and for the characters. Did they come back completely? Are some of them a bit insane? Did they go like? What I also don't want is a time reversal where like only one person remembers. Like that to me, I want everyone to remember this fucking nightmare, because that is how character is built.
Here's what I have been thinking about. This is my fantasy world.
Okay.
Is that maybe this isn't what I think will happen. This is what I want to happen. I want, because we've established, okay, Captain Marvel exists in the 90s.
Yep.
So, and if Gamora is still alive as a child in the Soul Stone, what if somehow we get like go back in time and Gamora like grows up again and prevents this as a new adult, but other people still had to die. Anyway, that's what I would like.
Gotcha.
I think it's so complicated. It will never happen. But I want us to go back and start in like 1995. Gamora's 8, and she has to grow up again and then defeat her dad a different way.
So from what I understand from Captain Marvel, it does take place in the 90s, and both Nick Fury and Phil Coulson will be in attendance, which I'm super psyched for.
Brie Larson has the Rachel haircut, so you can tell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I'm excited. Now I'm
so 90s,
Yeah, 90s
She's
Rachel.
distinctly got the Rachel.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about, and if that something like that does happen, I think it will be interesting if somehow, some way they could get a message back to her. But I don't think that's how it's going to go.
Yeah.
I think
I'm right.
I think the thing we're both talking about here is that we don't want this to be an event that happened that they move on from.
The hand wave.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that doesn't like come back up again. If you're gonna do something this bold, be bold about it and make it permanent.
Now, and this is a point that I had that I call as a potential issue for this film. And granted, I do want to say the characterizations of all these people together is a delight to watch. All the fight scenes are great. I would say the comp work, the green screen work in this film, outside of a few shots of heads coming out of suits, is second to none. Like even on like the other planets and Titan and stuff, I'd be hard pressed to find problems in the actual matting of the green screens. Like they all, for being shot primarily on a soundstage green screen set, they all felt really good. But this is what I'm worried about. Is the secret to why this and sort of all of the Marvel movies is the ingredient, the extra spice, the secret sauce that makes me and the world seem to love these things, is they're so good because they don't end. Now, because you can't screw up a landing, you never land.
Right, yeah, and I think that's kind of my general issue, is that I never feel like I get a complete experience. I get like half a movie and then a teaser for another movie to sort of resolve this. And I think that's and the thing is, this is to me arguably the boldest thing that they've done in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I would hope that they realize that I've had an interesting experience this week, which was that I've started telling my son stories where I'm making them up. Like I'm just making up stories, right? Like we put down a book and we just start making up a story.
And that's where Daddy saved all the 50 school children from the burning bus.
But the amazing thing that happened is like I remember my wife was telling him a story, and at my wife got to the end of it, and and my son was like, "That's not the end of the story. Something big has to happen, and then it ends."
He learns the plot structure.
He learned plot structure, and
okay.
I was super impressed by that. But it got me thinking about these experiences where I was like,
"That's great.
I want to see the thing land." Like we can argue the thing about Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter that's really different is it felt like there was a finite conclusion to this thing. Like there was like, we are starting here and we're going to end here, and we definitely know there's an ending. The thing with these films that that kind of I struggle with a little bit as well is a little bit the death of the Asgardians kind of thing, and Peter Parker becoming an Avenger, is that they seem to like occasionally not necessarily contradict, but sort of just jump away from the film that they just did into something different, and in a way that makes it sort of cheapens the previous experience. And so I like the films for the most part, but I don't ever get attached to them. And I think that part of that is that. And, I asked you guys when you guys were doing the whole thing is like, what do you think the whole series is about? Like, how does this whole thing connect together? And the more I've kind of thought about it, the more I've kind of like been, replaying the movies in my head and seeing the ones that I've seen again, I kind of think this is both an amazing thing and both kind of like, oh, I'm not sure how you're kind of going to do this. It's sort of more analogous to an exquisite corpse. Have you guys heard of, an exquisite
I've heard the term.
Exquisite corpse is when one author does one thing and hands it off to another author, and the second author is entitled to do whatever they want with it. So they can basically dismiss everything that they've done before, or continue it, or do whatever they want. And it kind of feels like it's not quite an exquisite corpse, but it's occasionally like they just sort of like they make one film, see how it goes, and then let's jump to another one and let's kind of take a few pieces of this and see where we're going. But I never quite feel like there's a grand design to this whole thing, like I never feel like there's an overarching, this is where we're going to end this story.
I mean, you should have been watching. You should have been watching like me, where you're dumb and you're just like, what a good standalone movie. Up until like the only time I assumed they were interconnected ever was like Civil War. I was like, okay, this is going somewhere. But like I've watched every single one as its own movie and then get annoyed when there's any reference to another one within it. I'm like, what is this doing here? So you're just viewing it too smart. Be dumber. Watch it like a dum-dum who just likes eating popcorn in a dark room. Like me.
To your points, I've never had the problem. This is the interesting thing. The occurrence of this being the first half of the end of the story has brought to light the only time I've ever felt that fear or the way that you feel, Shahir. Because every other movie, I'm fine with it never ending because they never act like it's the end.
Right.
But knowing this is the end.
This movie is straight up trying to tell you, whether you believe it or not, that this is the end. And if they don't make it an actual end, that's fucked up.
But there are 4 other movies coming out?
Look, that's fine. It needs to be a paradigm shift. The end of Phase 3 needs to break the Marvel mold, or the story, not the mold, so much.
Yeah.
That when it starts up again, it feels new. And that's going to be deaths. That's going to be character changes. And that's going to be, world-bending situational stuff. And if they can pull that off, great. If they cheapen it and it's like, everyone's okay, one person died and Tony Stark retires, it's just like,
It'll be the biggest disappointment I think we'll ever experience in like the 19 hours of not 19 hours, 30 something hours.
38, but now 40 with this.
God.
So it's one of those things where, as we inch closer to the appropriate quote end of this particular part of the story, this is the part that they're telling us will feel the most like the end. If they don't give us an ending, or they cheapen the ending enough where they can just go back and do the same shit they do over and over and over again, it's gonna break it. And now listen, 19 films, the pedigree is there for them not to fuck it up, especially with this one. But you never know.
Yeah.
And so as much as
they do have time for reshoots at this point, so
100%.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I don't know.
The thing is, will Disney kill the goose that laid the golden egg?
Will they kill Robert Downey Jr.?
Will they? Because I think what I'm saying is to really be bold. This is a money making machine. Like it is literally the golden goose at this point, golden eggs. Like, are they willing for a narrative point of view to kill the goose that laid the golden egg? They
need to keep the goose's children alive. Like they can't. That's a weird analogy, and I'm sorry for it, but they can't. The goose. This is the last golden egg this particular goose so maybe not kill it, but put it out to pasture and don't make it lay eggs anymore. And maybe it meets a nice other goose and they get together and have a nice goose life. And then eventually they can have goose babies that can lay golden eggs again.
Yeah. No, I think at this point, the fans that are the ones giving them all the money will be so upset if they don't kill off big characters that they'll do it. I trust them. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but I trust that they're gonna for real kill. Capital K kill.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain
who?
Robert Downey Jr. is out at this point.
I think Robert Downey Jr. is out. I think Captain America is gonna die.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I
Could
think
be
he
both.
is.
That's the thing with all of these guys.
The two
I'm
of them
like,
need to die.
yeah, I think a lot of them need to like move on. You know.
The big three, I think, do. I think Thor, I think Captain America, and Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man.
Oh, Thor counts? What about the Hulk?
The Hulk is not part of big three. I think Bruce Banner could go away and not die, and it would be fine. I don't think Bruce Banner dying.
It's title generating characters. So like characters that actually create entire movies behind them. So those are those big three.
I have a question about how you guys felt about something.
Sure. Hit us.
Because I've had this discussion with a few people in the past couple days. How did you feel about the Hulk not being able to Hulk?
The erectile dysfunction.
Did you feel like it was a cheap move to like save him for the final movie, or did you feel like it made sense and was earned?
Again, I'm in awe of like the plate spinning in this movie and all the things that they have to do to kind of make this thing work. I felt like that was one where I could kind of narratively put a reason in my head for why it was happening, but I don't think that the film actually did. And I feel, and what will annoy me, what annoys me about it potentially is if they're saving it for another movie. And I kind of feel like if you're going to do something like that, which we haven't quite seen yet, you need to like do something with that, you know, like I didn't mind it. I didn't really have a problem with it. This is a kind of overall thing with this entire movie. This is one of the first time you'll ever hear me say this, is that I feel like this should have been longer. This whole movie should have been like way longer.
It could have been longer.
Like way longer to give all those beats more time to actually sink in, to actually like, so that I'm not walking away going, well, what about this? What about this? Because all those sort of whatabouts do lessen the experience. You know, I'm not going, this is a knockout of the park. We had this conversation about A Quiet Place, which I think, you know, A Quiet Place was a film I got really excited about, even though there's like problems with it. But because it's sort of finite, there's nothing else coming around it. It's like I can just, you know, I can work with that and I can get excited about it. But the fact that this has those kinds of like, well, this didn't work, and this didn't work, and this didn't work, means that it doesn't, you know, like you sort of walk away kind of half there and half not. You're like, well, if they pull this off, then I'm there. But if this is it, then I'm not there.
Well, this is the interesting part of that. I didn't come out of it like that. And now that we're talking about it sort of from a more critical standpoint, of course, we're all sort of thinking that. The great thing, and this is a tactile, intelligent Disney business move. For a year, we're all going to be, quote, feeling the, quote, weight of all of this stuff because the next one doesn't come out for a year. And so they can bask in the efficientness and the emotional weight that this film has given for a full year. Now, what they need to do, we all know some are going to come back, but they need to, you know, kind of double down on their bet and make sure that they don't cheapen it enough to where the entire population that watches Marvel films feels cheated out of the year they felt bad. Like, because the second you do that, you burn every bridge on the planet for you.
And the longer you extend it out, if you do that, the worse it is.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're like breaking up with someone and you don't leave right away and you kind of make it a long extended breakup, it's way worse.
We're going to break up, but I'm going to live here for 8 months.
And I guess my only thing is I'm not entirely sure that I'm convinced after 19 movies that they've got the chutzpah to do that. Especially like, you know, thinking about what they're doing with Star Wars right now, what they're doing with you know, like, it's just like, let's just keep this going, you know?
I'm wearing a Rogue One shirt right now, and I'd like to point out that Rogue One restored my faith in, like, saga franchise filmmaking because they killed everybody. And I was like, everyone should die. And they did.
Yeah.
And the movie's over and I'm happy about it because they did what the story needed. So anyway, I don't think it's beyond them.
Yeah.
I have hope for them because of things like Rogue One, where I'm like, no, you understood that this had to have a meaningful ending or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. Look, I again, Shahir, and both you and Shalyah, I think they will make the right decisions.
I hope so.
I hope so.
But this is again, it's almost like the issue I had at the end of Civil War. Like, how can I care more than this? They've proven I can care more than this, but now they need to prove it again. Like they need, because it's not been an ending yet. They need to quote end it.
I think what it is as well is they need to respect the audience.
Yeah.
Like, and audiences, like my son, when we didn't give him an ending, they want, people want to feel narratively fulfilled. And that's what the biggest payoff has to be, is that this has to be narratively fulfilled. And the things that don't, make me sort of go, I'm not sure about this, is the Black Panther Part 2 is coming out, Spider-Man Part 2 is coming out, and it means that I know cognitively that the things that you kind of made me gasp about were not really things to begin with.
No one likes narrative storytelling more than they like money at Disney. Like they're not going to kill the Black Panther after what just
$1 billion.
happened.
Yeah.
They're not going to be that stupid. And so you're like, well, he's fine because he's worth a lot. And yeah.
Even beyond who's going to live and who's going to die, they need to end certain characters, and I'm guaranteeing you that most of those characters that will permanently end were not any of them that happened during the snapping.
Yeah. A lot of the ones that went away in the snap were almost assured will come back.
Wasn't it pretty exclusively everyone that went away in the snapping is a franchise that has a sequel coming out?
I mean, Winter Soldier, but Winter Soldier's probably going to take up Cap. Same with Sam Wilson. That could be it. I have a whole list of the snapping right here.
And Chris Evans has been very open about being done with Captain America.
He didn't die in the snapping. So
he didn't, but he's done. So that gives us some insight. Because who are they going to get to be Captain America?
Bucky or Sam? But
it has to be. But that's what I mean. It has to be someone that exists within it. It's not like they're going to pick up Captain America and hire someone else.
Yeah. So T'Challa's going to be back. Groot's going to be back. Scarlet Witch maybe will be back. I'm wondering if they.
She's too sad. Let her die.
I know. I'm wondering if they're going to go a little bit Avengers Disassembled storyline with Scarlet Witch, where she kind of she goes away for good. Sam Wilson, Mantis, Drax. I think Mantis and Drax will both be back because they're just sort of like side comic relief characters. Peter will obviously be back. Doctor Strange. There's no real. I don't know if there's a slate for Doctor Strange 2 yet.
And he also the nature of how he died, because he looked at all the possible outcomes.
Yep.
And sort of begrudgingly accepted this one.
Because this is the only one that might end correctly for him.
Yes, and to me that raises some questions that he might have seen that this is it for him and had to accept it.
Maybe.
Because he doesn't give a shit about Iron Man or Peter Parker, and he says so.
Yeah.
He's like, I would rather let you die than give him the stone. And then he's like, leave Tony alive, take the stone. Like, he doesn't mean that. So I think it was a big choice for him. And because he looked at the outcomes, I think he might be dead.
Maybe.
For good. Or if they do bring him back, he dies again.
Right.
So.
And then the last couple snappings were Peter Parker, which we already talked about how that was a beautiful scene, Maria Hill and Nick Fury, and then a bunch of other people like humans.
Peter Parker, that was apparently an improvised scene.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That wasn't scripted for him to be like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. They
really?
improvised that.
Wow, they're good together. Both.
They're so good together.
Tom Hiddleston and Robert Downey Jr.
are great.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland.
Oh, it's Tom Hiddleston.
Get my Toms correct.
Different Toms.
There's a lot of Toms, a lot of Chris, a lot of white guys in this movie, I gotta say.
Yeah.
My reaction to the snapping was mostly anger about the people that they did not tell us what happened to them. Specifically, Shuri. How dare you not tell us if she's okay?
Did Shuri go in the snapping? I kind of.
They didn't show. They didn't show if she did or not.
Right.
And my biggest emotional reaction, because I wasn't prepared for it. Like Loki, I prepared for. All the other ones, I was like, if there's a good chance, there's a good chance. But just when one of the what's his name of the children of Thanos broke into Shuri's workshop.
That's Corvus Glaive.
I screamed.
Right.
I screamed because I was that scared for Shuri because I care very, very much about her. So I'm very mad that we don't know if she's okay or not and have to spend a whole year not knowing if she's okay or not because she matters to me. Yeah. Like, it makes me mad that they didn't show. And I even if that's a plot point, like, it's not really to leave it a mystery because you showed us everybody else.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm mad.
And it feels like it's probably just something that, you know, they felt like didn't need to be explained in this film.
They didn't have to, but like, yeah. No, I'm mad about that. And I think also I really wanted to know if Wong was alive purely because he would know how to work the time stone.
He just seemed like he was chilling. Like, he was like, you know what? If I live or die, it's cool. I'm just going to stay here.
Yeah, but he's also the only other wizard we have access to. So if they are going to do some time reversal stuff, they need him because Doctor Strange is gone.
Dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizards.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was such...
this movie's full of so many good quotes. Yeah. It's insane.
So many good.
So this is a really specific thing, and I don't know if it's a big deal for anyone else. It might not be at all. But like, one of the things I remember when the first Iron Man came out, there was the precedent for men flying in suits or flying in general in movies. At that point was Superman Returns, which had come out just previously to Iron Man. And the thing that I just remember this so vividly from the trailer was when I saw Iron Man flying through the air, and there's this like extended shot of him at the first trailer, and basically all his limbs are shaking and vibrating as he's in the air. And that was like this really powerful thing because, again, the previous thing that I'd seen was Superman Returns, and Superman Returns almost had this sort of Photoshop quality to it where the flying just was meaningless. And when Iron Man was doing it, there was this sort of tactile quality to it. And I was like, even though that's CG, that little nuance of the fact that he has to, like, you still use his musculature to try and control like aerodynamics. I thought that was really cool. And I was like, that's why I'm excited to see this movie. And that's what I'm into here. At this point, I feel like Tony Stark is just a magic man like everybody else in this whole thing. Like, he has a nano suit, which he just presses a button and he's flying. He goes up to Titan. First off, they can all breathe on Titan. This is like a minor thing, but it was like, I kind of miss there's a thing, you know, a sort of secondary thing with a bunch of these movies, which is that they sort of get into like, and Josh, I think it was Josh Larson from the Chicago Tribune coined this phrase, was the punchplosion, which is basically, you know, like everything just gets very punchy, explosion-y.
Sure.
And there's a thing about like seeing Iron Man basically become now almost as magical as Doctor Strange, almost as magical as the most magical characters, was like, oh, I kind of miss like seeing Tony think his way through problems with the resources he has, as opposed to like having just amazing buttons on his body now. And I was like, it was just this thing. And then I was like, oh, and now we've kind of given that to Peter Parker as well, you know, with the spider suit, which can now do all this stuff. And I was like, I know this movie's trying to do a lot, and you know, you can't like get into the minutia like that, but it was kind of a thing that I was like just feeling as I was watching it, that it was like, oh, okay, this is where you know, everyone's just kind of magical.
It's like a salve for possible problems where they're like, we don't want to have to deal with the little things, so your suits do it.
I think you're a magic man now.
I think the reason that doesn't bother me is because they in the film, nothing that quote Tony Stark or Peter Parker or any of the sort of tech magic people that sort of their tech has grown to the point where it's akin to magic. None of the things that they do, I mean, in general, really affect or solve problems. They're fight and interesting sort of combat devices. Yeah. So, for instance, if Tony Stark just came up with the glove remover 9000 off of his suit and could take or take a gem out of the Infinity Stone because of the nanites or whatever, and this is a weird, again, if we're going minutia, I'm going to sort of do the opposite minutia. I would have a problem if the random like superheroes can do this, because if that had actual narrative consequences, but it really doesn't. It has the consequence. The only thing it really does is getting characters to and from places. Right. And that I don't mind, because I want to see all these characters together.
What it does, though, is it kind of nullifies the reason for those characters to be there, because they're just punch, you know, they're just sort of foils to punch and punch.
No, disagree.
You know what I mean? Like why is Spider-Man have to be there.
Spider-Man has to be there. Well, listen, Spider-Man doesn't have to be there. He sneaks on there. He's not supposed to be there.
And the arc of his previous film was to say, I'm going to look after my neighborhood. I don't want to be an Avenger because I need to like stay in my lane.
But
right?
the movie before that, I know we're going ping ponging back and forth. He always says he throws down himself to protect people. And technically, if Peter Parker has a spaceship above Queens or even above Manhattan, he's going to be like, oh, these are my people. I'm going to go deal with it.
Right. And he said, he was like, I can't be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood.
If there's no neighborhood.
It feels like we kind of like jump over the arc, and I think there's a great article. This writer, Film Crit Hulk, who
I love Film Crit Hulk.
He wrote a great piece for the Observer. He's kind of shifted out of the birth, death, and movies which he was at, and he talks specifically about that sort of the phrase he uses, the texture of consequence, and he says his words here, and I half agree with the thrust of what he's saying. I want to process the movie a little bit more, but is that the films play with the texture of consequence. We presume that like things matter in this world, but then the next movie kind of says, well, ultimately we're just going to keep going with this. So what really did matter then doesn't necessarily matter as much as you think it did. And so now we keep going. And I think that that's the sort of prevailing thing. I will say I liked the movie more than he seems to have liked it,
right.
which I thought was a little bit odd. But I do agree with that sense that, the films ultimately play with the idea that there is consequence, but not really 100% commit to that idea unless, and part of that is this notion that we're going to deal with it in another movie.
Yeah. But at the same time, there is a ton of consequence in all of these films, just not necessarily like as in consequence of no, they are life-changing consequences, but they're narrative character consequences. Look at how many people in Thor's friends and family circle that are dead across 4 films.
Everyone's dead.
Look at every one of these characters at this point. Thor. Every one of these characters, I'll say 80% of these characters have had a loss that has affected them, that has turned them sort of in a direction towards the way that they are going. There is loss and stakes in all the films. Now, granted, the reason I could see why it doesn't feel that way sometimes is because, again, outside of the theaters, we always know more is coming. And again, going to my point about the Infinity War and the next Avengers film, nothing before this has felt like a legitimate end to me. So I've never had that bit of like, well, nothing's mattering, even though I think a lot of things are mattering. I think if they don't do right by the story that they have perpetuated for 19 films, the rest of phase 4 or whatever will flounder, and then it will eventually die.
Will it lessen the impact of the 19 films before that as well?
I think so. I think at a certain point, because it is so look, I can't with a straight face say to you, Shahir, that I believe that the strength of these films is that they actually interlink, even though you don't particularly like that on a lot of occasions. I can't say that, yes, the strength of these things partially is because they all do tie together. And then if the ending doesn't stick, I can't be like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It matters to me. Like, this is something that, look, if the last one of these in phase 3 with the last Avengers movie, I think it might turn my tide on a lot of this stuff. Mm-hmm. So I would be a hypocrite to say otherwise, I feel like.
And I think Film Crit Hulk's point of view was the sense that we can never fully evaluate because we're always kind of dealing with it later.
This needs to be an evaluation point. The next film after this is the evaluation point, at least for me personally. And if they don't, then that's it.
Out. Yeah.
What do you think, Shalyah?
Yeah, what do you?
I think, well, one, I was going to say with the idea of the technology outdoing minor consequence, like that Tony and Spider-Man, everybody. Do you guys remember in Thank You for Smoking when they're like, have them smoke cigarettes on the spaceship, and they say you can't smoke cigarettes in space because of the oxygen, and they said, so write a line that says thank God we got the blah 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 that makes it okay to smoke in space, and then move on. That's what I always think of anytime there's a convenient explanation, is like, so you say they invented the blah blah blah. Yeah. So I was gonna say that's there a lot of it is because we got a little sidetracked from that, but I wanted to say,
that's
like,
a good point.
I completely get where you're coming from. That it's like, there is a convenience to the inventions.
I don't mind that. I guess the only thing is I was like, I just miss the kind of Iron Man who kind of had to like, be resourcul.
Sure.
As opposed to having all the resources. Yeah.
And I do too. I'm of two minds about it because I'm like, I understand that we absolutely benefited from seeing these like real minor consequences like physicality of the suit and all that kind of stuff. But I also understand that to fit all that in, you can't constantly struggle with those things.
Yeah.
And I like the journey of Iron Man too, because I like that we still have like phase 1. He's at Mark 50 in this film, Mark L.
Yeah.
So we've seen him get better and better and better and better. This wasn't like at the first movie he has the metal suit and then the next one he has nanites. Like we've over the course of 10 years watched him do his tech. So like I think that's another reason why I'm narratively okay.
Again, it's not a huge thing. It was just the thing I was kind of like,
And then with as far as what's going to happen, like with people being loyal and the payoff, I think it's weird because it is so important that it end in a satisfying way. But if you really think about it, it's not.
It's not important. It's not going to.
Financially speaking. Because they've already got the money. I mean, I know they want more, but they know how to make more. They're Disney. They know how to make more. But what weirdly gives me faith that they know what they're doing, and this is purely from my own life, is how much they've invested into making California Adventure at Disneyland into like the Avengers part of the park.
Right.
They wouldn't do that if they didn't know that this was gonna stay good. They wouldn't have made a Guardians of the Galaxy ride if they didn't know. So I trust them purely because they've got like face character Loki. I'm like, oh, okay, you know what you're doing. You wouldn't have invested in this if you didn't know that you had a good payoff coming.
Well, then there comes the question of like, for instance, okay, so they're doing a theme park, right? Loki's dead. I don't think Loki's coming back. Is Loki still going to be in the theme park? 100%.
I can explain it to you though.
Okay.
When you meet Loki in the theme park and you say to him, Loki, I thought you died in Infinity War. Loki will say, no, that was the actor playing me in the film. I'm the real Loki.
There you go.
There you go.
Hey, from behind the Mickey Mouse curtain.
Yeah, that's so it's handled. That's not an issue. They can have everybody there forever. Otherwise, they'd be like, you're not Julie Andrews to Mary Poppins every single day. And she says, no, I'm not. That's an actress that played me. I'm Mary Poppins.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'm not worried about that.
Pure good lies.
They got that handled.
Nice.
Yes.
I mean, I guess unless anyone else has any major points, we can get into final thoughts. We've been doing a lot of which I think this is interesting about this film. We've been doing a lot of discussion about what comes next.
Yeah.
Yes.
As I'll do, I guess my final, then you, Shahir, then Shalyah can take us home.
Mm-hmm.
The stupidest one last.
What was that?
Take us home, Shalyah.
Save the stupidest for last. I think it's best.
You're gonna kill it. I know it.
Yo, I will.
So I think reviewing this film, and it's funny because you can see how we've been talking around it a little bit, is different than I feel like any film we've ever reviewed before. Because to get the maximum enjoyment and understanding, there is definitely required viewing. This is something we haven't quite touched. We touch on this a bunch in other things and other podcasts about this. Go check out all our back catalog.
Oh, by the way, my mom was supposed to be the litmus test because she doesn't remember.
Yeah.
She loved the movie. She doesn't remember any of the other movies, but she also left to go get coffee for a half an hour. And still was like, great movie. So I'm sorry, failed experiment.
The experiment is done.
Yeah.
The experiment is you can make my mom watch anything.
Right.
She'll like
But again, I don't think that the fact that there is required viewing, honestly, to get the most out of this film is a strike against it. You wouldn't want to watch like Twin Peaks or Breaking Bad, or if you did at the 6th season or like whatever the heck, like the last season of it starting, you of course wouldn't know what's going on. And just because it's films, even you can go to the Harry Potter series, you jump in at 8 part 2 and you're going to be like, So like, I don't think that's a strike against this film. And plus, I mean, honestly, if the box office has anything to say about it, I don't think anyone else seems to mind the homework. I mean, opening weekend had like what, 257.5 million, and worldwide as it sits right now is 857.9 or 0.5 million in its first weak. Like, I think overall as a society, and whether or not that is good or bad for cinema, people are okay with it. I think they made Thanos 100% live up to the hype. I didn't think that was a thing that they actually were going to be able to do. So kudos to them. I was shocked and pleasantly surprised. The Spider-Man death again was the moment that really got me, that in Vision. And weirdly enough, and this is a pure graphic design choice, the text in all the movies when it showed like locations, I really didn't like the font they chose. I thought a lot of fonts they used before were different, but at the end when it was just said Avengers Infinity War and the title itself blew away like all the people did that happened in the snapping, I got a fucking chill. And I was like, that's a small little end note after a beautiful end scene of Thanos doing exactly what he said he would do. After he did it, if he succeeded, he would just sit somewhere and watch the sunrise on a quote thankful universe. And I was like, fuck, they did it. And knowing what I know about movies and the Marvel and Mouse machine, and still thinking in the moment that I saw this film, fuck, they actually did it, is 100% worth my time, money, and effort up to this point. Now, again, in a year, we're going to be past this point, and that might all not matter and come crumbling down around me. But right now, I think this is a film that is every bit everything I wanted it to be. That's me, Shahir.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I've often come on the podcast and been the naysayer, and I still, to an extent, kind of think that the issues that I've raised are still valid in terms of like getting singular movie experiences. Like for example, I'm still, if you ask me what movie you think I should go see this weekend, and A Quiet Place was still playing and Avengers Infinity War is still playing, I would say go see A Quiet Place. Right. But I think the thing is that this is the first film in many of them where I feel like there is a narrative chutzpah about it. They really are trying to do something, and I hope that my desire to see where this goes is paid off, because if it's not, then it will, I think it'll sour the entire experience, really. And I think that's a heavy weight to put on the next film, but that's kind of their own doing at this point as well, is because they've put off, doing that for 19 films up to 20 films now. So if you're going to put it off for 20 films, you really got to deliver at this point. So I hope that it is, that the optimistic side of me wins over in this experience as opposed to the cynical side. But who knows? Let's come back in a year's time. The only other thing was that I know when the second Hobbit movie came out, I thought the ending of the second Hobbit movie was one of those experiences was like, oh, I want to see where this is going from here. And then a year passed and I was like, oh, the next Hobbit movie came out? I'm good. Yeah. I don't need to see this. So, maybe a year will work in your favor. Maybe it won't. I don't know. It's exciting that this exists. It's exciting that this is creating a theatrical experience that is still relevant for a lot of people. We talked a little bit about the death of the movie going experience. So it's still exciting that this is kind of putting a real reason to go to the movies, forefront. But we got to pay it off, and let's see if they can.
Yeah. Shalyah, take us home.
All right. Well, I'm going to close us out on a very specific to how I watch movies opinion of my final thoughts on Avengers Infinity War. First of all of the female characters that have been introduced throughout were all given such wonderfully cool storylines. Now, mind you, there's so many characters that everybody has kind of a short storyline. But, like, Gamora is arguably the most important character in this movie.
Right.
That fight when Scarlet Witch and Black Widow and Naoki against Proxima Midnight is fucking phenomenal. Shuri's absolutely a hero. Like, Nebula is like being tortured but holding her own. Like, all the female characters were done such justice, and it made me so happy. So for that, freestanding, no matter what happens in the next movie, I felt very satisfied by that. And from the other very Shalyah point of view, I've never watched a movie with more hot guys in my life, and it made it hard for me to have an opinion at all. You're not supposed to have that many crushes in one movie. It's too many crushes. So I've just been trying to come to terms with that. But all in all, even if I have no expectations even if there was no next movie, I thoroughly enjoyed my experience.
There we go.
I had a great time.
Good deal. Well, before we end this podcast of the film, I will not say the name yet because that's always how we end these things. We do want to touch on an email or two, Shahir. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we've kind of covered most of this already, but here's one from Laura. Again, this is a spoiler-based question. She basically says, I just felt kind of annoyed by the visual comedy of the bubbles that directly followed a really heavy moment. I guess my question is, do you think that this tone is necessary for this type and scale of movie? I feel like the humor often acts as a form of self-awareness. Like they want to let the know that the audience, they want to let them know that all the aliens, magic, and superpowers is a bit ridiculous, so let's all have a laugh at it all. Does that make it more accessible to a wider audience, or do you think it cheapens moments that it could have had a lot more weight to them? Do you get crowds with the jokers or with the jokes or with the feels? Do you guys want to tackle that?
I got something for that. I thought the fact that they used bubbles twice cheapened it.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that so you have a glove that can do anything. Bubbles once is good and funny and appropriate. Bubbles twice being a callback to a joke no one gave a shit about, I think was a poor choice.
Shalyah?
I felt like, now I didn't care for it either time, but somehow felt okay with it because it was like, oh God, Thanos is he's a dad. Like it feels like a fucking dad move.
Dad joke.
To be like, don't shoot at my kid, Bubbles. Like it felt like dad jokes, and something about like his relationship with Gamora made the bubbles feel more appropriate to me because it was like, what a dumb fucking move. And then I'm like, ugh, he's such a dad. Like it's a dad move. No offense.
None taken because you're
not an old dad yet, so you're okay.
Pretty old.
Well, they're not. Until you've got a teenager, you're fine.
Yeah, true.
That's when you're a really big loser.
I am Groot.
One thing that I know we're kind of wrapping this up, but one thing I was actually really impressed by was that the decision to make Thor a comedy in Ragnarok suddenly clicked right into place in terms of a tactical decision for this film, because they were like, oh, we're eventually going to land Thor with the Guardians of the Galaxy, so we need them to be in the same comedic wheelhouse. And I think that was like, it was suddenly like when that happened, I was like, oh, this actually clicks into place now, and I suddenly understand why that decision was actually a really forethought decision. It wasn't like let's just readdress what's going wrong with Thor. Last question here is, and it's basically again, it's from Will, and it's covering things that we've already done. But he said, isn't it obvious to that everyone remaining at the end of the movie just happens to be those who want to exit the franchise? They're going to do a swaparoo in the next movie, and have those survived nobly exchanged their lives for who crumbled into dust? Or am I just dumb and everyone realized this and isn't talking about it? Well, I think we've covered that.
We covered it.
Covered in there. I think the important thing here is whether the payoff is meaningful and resonant. It doesn't matter what they do, but as long as they make it work.
Yeah, as long as they make it matter narratively, and for any character that either stays, comes back, or leaves forever. Like there has to be consequence to the actions of this film, no matter what.
And I think they've as we've discussed, they've sprinkled in a couple teaser ones where it could go either way.
Yeah.
To try to even it out, so it wasn't a perfect split down the middle. But yeah, I mean, it's more important how they do it than what they do.
Yeah.
I think, in the end.
Sprinkles like the Red Skull coming back.
Oh, right.
Well, that was such a nice random thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Lady and gentleman. And listeners, dear listeners, this has been the only podcast about Avengers Infinity War.
Nobody else is talking about this
No
movie.
one else is talking about this.
Nobody.
Shalyah, thank you so much for finishing this journey we started
But
on
it's not
so
finished.
long ago.
It's not finished. You better
She's
have
gonna
me
be
back in a year.
She'll be back in a year.
Yeah, that's
If you
true.
don't invite me back in a year, I riot.
Thank you. So let's rephrase. Starting the finishing of this,
Yes.
this
Finishing
journey.
for right now.
Shalyah, when you are not considering experience, where can folks find you?
Oh, I can be found all over the internet at Shalyah Evans because I'm the only one, so I took it.
Yeah.
I also like how Shalyah is kind of like the girl version of Shahir. And it was
Yeah,
like,
I've been enjoying it too. I'm like, good, we're doing it.
I was like, you just, we just found a wig and put,
What does Shahir mean?
Shahir in Iranian or Islamic means it's kind of akin to poet. It kind of means someone who speaks and people listen, which is not the case on this podcast ever.
Well, Shalyah is a messenger of peace. So
there you go.
We've got some of the same base words going on there.
Yeah, basically you're
Matt,
the
what does
messenger.
Matt mean?
I vocalize it.
Mine means cis white dude. I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
I'm sure there's a meaning.
It means not Chris.
Yeah. Kroll means they cut off the last 19 letters of my ancestors' Polish last name when they got to Ellis Island.
What was the?
Yeah.
What's the?
I don't know, like Kroll-Walalinsky. Like, which again,
We actually added an N, I think, at
Oh,
Ellis Island. We threw more letters in.
yeah, why not? Shahir, when you're not kicking names and taking ass, where can folks find you?
You can find me confusing all kinds of words at my website, www.shahirdaud.com. That's SHAHIRDAUD. Matt, I have no funny taglines for you on this episode. I think you have done an admirable job of taking, of being very serious about the franchise that you are most committed to in this podcast journey we've taken. So where can people find you doing more of that?
I mean, I appreciate that because if you threw another moon at me, I was going to lose it. You can find me at MATTHEWKROL.com for all of my life and works. You can also find me on Skeletor, the number 4 PREZ on Instagram, or Emperor MSK on Twitter. I'm going to do a little bit of self-promotion teasery. I have an exciting announcement coming up that I can't talk about for a few weeks. So there's that.
So you're going to marvel this by like teasing it on the next episode?
But wait, there's more.
10 years, you'll tell us.
Maybe I'll hint it a little bit more as the episodes move on, but I'm very excited, and I'm hoping our audience will be too. And with that, I guess this is it for now until next year when we all come back
and do this again.
I don't feel so good.
No, Shalyah! Shalyah, no!
Where'd she go?
Oh my God, she's gone.
Where'd she go? Well, she's just hiding over there. I can see her.
Well, yeah, if you pan the camera over, let it happen.
I can see.
Let it happen. She had a moment.
She's coming back.
Guys, I'm fine.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fine.
There you go.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Guys, we did it.